Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Lou Mongello. You, of course, are my friend. If you are watching live, thank you so much for spending and sharing. Some of you are Wednesday night with me. If you're watching on the replay, please join us here every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, it's always better when there's even more friends. So pull up a chair, get comfortable, bring a snack, and please share this out and invite your friends as well. Super excited. Always love Wednesday nights. It is my favorite night of the week. Lots of stuff to talk about today. There's the 800-pound gorilla / elephant in the room, which I promise we will get to. We don't always talk about breaking Disney news, but sometimes things happen that cause a little bit of conversation, and dare I say, sometimes even some interesting discussion. So welcome to everybody who is watching live. Again, I love seeing so many familiar names and faces in the box. Darlene, Jim, Terry Stinson, Doherty, Bill Daniel, nice to see you. Andrew, Jim Delancey, John, Andrew Prince, how are you? How's your mom doing? Jack Fussell, nice to see you as well. Judy Pavarini, always a pleasure. And the list goes on and on and on. Again, thank you guys so very much for being here. Listen, God forbid there's ever anything really good on TV. I'm in trouble because you guys are going to have somewhere else to go and something else to do and watch. Let's see. First things first, I want to thank everybody who has downloaded and shared and sent me comments about the show this week. It was a huge thrill to interview Dave Goelz Dave Goelz from the Muppets, from Journey into Imagination, from Fraggle Rock. I have been a Muppet fan since I was a little kid. This was a huge thrill for me to be able to do that in advance of the Muppet Guys Talking movie, which comes out this Friday. Actually, you guys are invited to the world premiere online party. It's not just for media anymore. This Friday, March 16th, you can watch live on Facebook at facebook.com/Muppet Guys Talking. Again, I had a blast talking with Dave. Such a nice guy, such a talent. And again, I love the journey of, again, sometimes you don't always end up where you think you're going to start. He was an engineer first and then made his way to being one of the most popular Muppet performers. And I could have talked to Dave for hours. Such a nice man as well. So it was a pleasure to speak to him. Thanks to everybody who listened, who commented, and more importantly, if you share this out with your friends, that is the best way to try and bring even more people into our so amazing WDW Radio family that you guys have created. Beatrice, Corrine, Kevin Shea, Daniel, nice to see you guys as well. Darlene Nagy from West Seneca, New York. Kimberly Bouchard, always a pleasure. Stephen Cook says, great interview, Lou. Another spectacular job. Thank you, man. Listen, I am fortunate because, I get to talk to people that, whose work I've admired for, man, it's bright in here, whose work I have, admired for years. So that, and they make it, very, very easy as well. A couple of quick reminders before we get into the conversation. Don't forget that our next meet of the month is going to be not this Saturday, next Saturday, March 24th at Sassagoula Float Works. I was there doing some work for the WDW Radio Nation. Spoiler alert, this month's scavenger hunt was at Port Orleans, and I saw the beignets, I smelled the beignets, I tasted the beignets, and I decided to change the location of where I had originally intended the meet of the month to be. So we're going to meet for some beignets and some conversation next Saturday, March 24th, over at Port Orleans French Quarter, one of my favorite resorts, and arguably the best of the moderates. It's small, it's quaint. I like the pool area that I mentioned, the beignets. If they had a sit-down restaurant, it might be the perfect resort. It might just be, even location, like where it is positioned by Magic Kingdom at Epcot. I dig it quite a lot. Linda Lammers, one more reason why I love you. You love the beignets, so that is part of the reason why we bond. So I wanted to give everybody some time to get in, including Jason Saunders. Good to see you again, man. It was great seeing you at the last meeting of the month. I dig the shirt, brother. Melanie Jones, I owe you an email. I promise. I'm trying to figure out. We're going to make this happen for you. Don't worry. Oh man, I got to put on my glasses. It's getting harder and harder to see. Jeff Laughlin, I agree. Riverside is really good too. Due in large part, not just to the theming, but the restaurants as well. So, Stephen Cook, that is what we are going to get to tonight. We're going to get to this discussion about overnight parking. Clearly, this has been an interesting topic of conversation. So if you know somebody that has strong feelings one way or the other, I would welcome you to invite them to be part of this discussion. So what I want to do is I absolutely want to hear from you, not just via text, but I want you to call in tonight because this is a very interesting topic. I've read hundreds of comments today, some of them very strong. There's a lot of passionate responses to this. So what I want to do that let's first things first. Let's sort of talk about, in case you don't know, Disney announced today some changes in guest parking at resort hotels. So I want to go over exactly what's what so there are no misunderstandings. So everybody's sort of on the same exact page. According to Disney's official release and change to their website, there is now, for registered guests, overnight self-parking effective March 21st and thereafter. Standard overnight self-parking is available to registered guests for a fee that will be applied to their hotel folio upon checkout. The policies are this. Standard overnight parking charges differ based on the resort category you stay on. So for value resorts, it's $13 per night. For moderates, it's $19 per night. For deluxe and deluxe villas, it's $24 per night. If you are staying at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort, standard parking is complimentary for one vehicle. Valet parking is now $33 per night at deluxe resorts and deluxe villas. If you are a Disney Vacation Club member, you will not be charged for standard overnight self-parking when staying at the villas, regardless of whether or not you use vacation points or you use cash. So that is what it is. And again, there have been, and I already see conversations and reactions in the box. Again, I want to hear from you. So I'm going to go through these, but what I want to do first is this. I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate and hear me out so I can explain why. When things like this come out, it's very, very easy to, again, don't shoot the messenger, but it's very easy to bash Disney or any company when news like this comes out. And unfortunately, there's nobody here to explain the reasons why those decisions are made, the logic, the thought process behind it. So I think it's very unfair sometimes to have a one-sided argument, like on Facebook and on Twitter. And look, I feel this way because I've been on the other side of those one-sided tirades. I've seen, people become judge and jury without necessarily seeing a second side to it. It's not equitable. It's not fair. So I want to be very, very clear, to be clear, I'm not defending in any way. I'm not defending the decision to charge for overnight parking. Let me be clear. I don't like spending money either. I would rather spend my $13, $18, $20 on food rather than parking. I'm a podcaster, so, we're talking podcaster dollars here. But I think this makes for interesting and hopefully civil conversation about it, because I think that you can make arguments. I went to law school. That's what I was trained to do. You can make arguments on both sides as to, again, why you dislike it, but also why it's being done. And again, in the role of playing devil's advocate, right? When I'm putting on my lawyer hat, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm trying to just stir conversation. This decision might not necessarily be based on everybody's reaction as to why it's happening. What I mean by that is this decision to charge for overnight parking for resort guests might not be solely about making money. There are lots of other ways that they can and do this, right? And again, I want to be clear because I saw somebody in the comments. This is not for daily parking. So if you go to Port Orleans and want to go to a meet of the month, you're not going to be charged to park there for eating or for dining or for wandering around the resorts. It's only for resort guests that have a car and are staying overnight. I also want to make something else clear too. This is not what is happening here in Walt Disney World is not new. If you've been to some of the other Disney parks, if you've been to California, you'll know if you stay at Disney's Grand California Resort and you stay overnight, those hotels have been charging for a while. And most vacation area hotels charge a parking fee. If you go to other tourist destinations, look, I just came back from San Diego, and I think the overnight charge to park at my hotel was $40 a night. Fortunately, I Lubered, so I did not have a car, but it's the standard. It's the norm in a lot of other locations. Again, playing devil's advocate, I'm trying to figure out the logic behind the making decision, because obviously Disney knows doing things like this, adding on a charge that was not there previously, will not necessarily be met with a favorable response, as Twitter and Facebook have indicated. I just want to lay this out there again, just for conversation. Currently, and we're estimating this is what estimates are, Walt Disney World resorts are at 92 to 95% occupancy all the time. I'm not talking about Christmas week or Easter week. It is at that high of an occupancy rate, right? It is over capacity, right? With pass holders, with people who are staying at resorts. So look, I have seen quite often, and I don't just mean during holidays, so many people complaining about they can't stay at the resorts, right? They can't get a room at the resorts because they're too crowded. They're trying to book a vacation X amount of months out, and they can't because the hotels are booked up. They're literally forced to go elsewhere, right? Lines to get into the Magic Kingdom, right, are sometimes here's a picture of a non-holiday week of a line to get into the Magic Kingdom. Here is another picture taken from the monorail of a line to get into the Magic Kingdom. Here's another picture. All right, so this one doesn't count. I'm trying to make light of a situation, but what is happening is that the lines to get into the parks, the lines to park, are sometimes not 10 minutes long. They're 2 hours long. I parked in Epcot the other day, midweek, to go to Flower and Garden Festival, and I parked as far deep into the Wonder Lot. I have literally never parked there before. So the parks are very crowded. The resorts are very crowded, and that is a pain point for a lot of guests. So again, playing devil's advocate, how else can you thin the herd? How else do you reduce the number of cars that are on Walt Disney World property? Well, Disney offers alternative methods of free and paid transportation. You've got buses, you've got boats, you have minivans, which are wonderful, by the way. You have a new gondola system, which is coming in, and all of those things. We'll take the minivans out of the equation, but the boats, the buses, the gondolas, they all cost money to build and to staff, right? And look, and I think the minivan service is a wonderful service. And again, it's paid, but you get something else you don't get elsewhere, which is door-to-door service. Like literally the minivan will bring you closer to the parks than you can in most others. So they're giving you all these reasons not to want to take your car, to make it more convenient for you and make it more convenient for the guests like me that have to drive, because unfortunately the minivans don't go to my house. There is no bus to my house. If there was a gondola to the Publix by my house, it would be the best thing ever. But I think what the intent is to reduce the number of cars that are on the roads. More importantly, the number of cars at the resort. Look, how many times have you tried to go to eat at or park or go to see the gingerbread houses during Christmas time, and you're told you can't park at the resorts because they're overcrowded? It is what it is, and they can't, unfortunately, add any more parking space, right? And obviously, when you talk about the different tiered pricing, it's higher at the deluxe resorts because of their proximity, because of location to the parks. But the parking areas are maxed out. And I've seen numerous times today on social, well, why don't they just raise the prices of the resorts and just build it into that? So again, devil's advocate, I think that argument is flawed, because why should guests who don't have a car have to pay the premium for the guests that do, right? There's other ways to do it. I think what Disney is trying to do is, look, we're trying to give you all these other options. We're trying to give you all these reasons. Not that we don't want you to stay on property. Obviously, we want you to stay on property, but you don't need your car, right? You don't need the added expense, the headache, the traffic of the car. If so many more cars were taken off the roads, think about how much easier it would get for those that did to park, to get from point A to point B. Like, Animal Kingdom is far enough away as it is. When there's traffic and lots of cars, it makes it even more difficult, right? What they want to do, the intent is not, look, and let's be clear, Disney is in business. Disney is not, Disney's not in the business of making money. They're in the business of making a lot of money. The money that they're trying to make is not to be made on parking. The money that they're trying to make is by keeping guests on property, right? You're not going outside of Walt Disney World property to either other theme parks, to other restaurants, to other locations off property, right? They want you to stay inside. This way, the money that you do spend stays within that bubble, as it were. And I think if they would have said in the alternative, listen, we're trying to limit the number of cars here. What we're going to do is we're going to raise the price of every hotel room on property across the board $25 per night, to offset the costs of construction, to offset the number of vehicles that are going to be there. Then we would lose our collective marbles. So the intent is, well, we'll charge the people that have cars in an attempt to not only keep guests on property, but to, look, there's a lot of construction going on. That money needs to come from somewhere, so I get it. But I think that's what it is. It's not about, this is not a nickel and dime type of thing. This is a much, again, in terms of generating revenue, it's not generating revenue from the cars that are parking. It's reducing the number of cars that are there, giving you more access to free transportation systems on property, and making it easier. Ultimately, having less cars is going to be a benefit to every guest, because it's going to make the lines and the access into the parks, into Disney Springs. Look, I go to Disney Springs all the time. When there's a long line of cars getting into the lot, you're like, hey, if those numbers are reduced because there's more mass transportation being used, it's potentially a win-win for everybody. So that is why I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate, just to sort of have the conversation going. I see that there are a lot of comments in here as well. I obviously can't believe. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read. I cannot. I clearly cannot read all of the comments. I would love to have a civil, intelligent conversation with you if you'd like to call in. So what I will do is I will open up the phone lines. Be nice. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate, so be nice to me. But I do want to hear your thoughts about the overnight parking at Walt Disney World. They should charge for leaving and entering the resort. Teleportation needs to exist. So here is. Oh, you know what? I don't have this plugged in. Hold on a second. Oops. Wait a minute. Hang on one second. Let me see. I'm not sure if this is hooked right. Hey, this is Lou. You are on the air, I think. Hello? Hey, this is Lou. You're on the air.
Hey, Lou. How are you?
Who's this?
This is Marissa Brzezinski.
Marissa Brzezinski. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you. Listen, I'm going to preface any phone call by saying, don't shoot the messenger. I'm only playing
Absolutely not.
I am playing devil's advocate. So I'm just trying to illicit conversation. So are you calling about the parking, or are you calling about something food related?
A little bit of both. No, actually about the parking. I mean, my husband and I, we're DVC members, so the fee doesn't actually apply to us, but on behalf of everybody else, I'm really kind of cheesed off about it. The rest of my family are not DVC members, so when they go, they drive, and a lot of times they'll rent a car because they've got small children, they've got strollers, they have some medical equipment that needs to be brought with them. It just smells like a cash grab to us, and I know that part of what Disney's claiming is that, this industry standard and everybody else does it, but I just feel like Disney used to be better than everybody else, They used to be the industry leaders, not just how everybody else does it, so I guess we can add a fee to it.
And I want to be clear, because Disney, for whatever it's worth, Disney has not had a platform or a choice to sort of respond as to why this decision is made. So we're very much speculating as to where it came from. The conversation internally might have been, everybody else is doing it, we can too. This is a way to make additional revenue, offset some of the costs. For Star Wars Land is probably going to cost them, $10-$20 for them to build. They need to take that revenue somewhere else. So we don't know what the impetus is. I'm guessing, again, I'm trying to sort of rationalize it, but I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I like it. I wish things were the way they used to be. I wish ticket prices were still $3.50 to get in the way they were in 1971. Right. But I certainly understand and can appreciate, the strong sentiments. Look, as somebody who has always driven to Walt Disney World, obviously I live here now, but it certainly would affect me the same way. So I absolutely get it.
Right. I mean, and the rooms there are so expensive for what they are. And of course, I love them. I love staying on site, but I always felt like the resort fee or the parking fee was kind of rolled into that premium price we were paying for the resort rooms. And now it makes you wonder, are they going to, we know they're not going to, but gee, shouldn't they lower, since they're taking that parking fee out? It would be nice if they lower those resort fees to be in line with how everybody else in Orlando is doing it, if that was the reasoning. But I don't feel like that's going to happen.
Right. And look, there are other properties in the area, and on Walt Disney World property, there's Disney Springs hotels, the Swan and Dolphin, all have for years have charged for parking overnight. So this is not, it's not something new. It's just not something Disney has ever done before in Walt Disney World.
Yeah. We guess, especially us loyal ones, do not do change. We do not take the change lightly.
Like I said, I would rather spend my money on food than I would on parking. So I absolutely get it.
And it feels a little weird that they're not charging day visitors to the resort and instead passing the costs on to the people who are spending a lot of money to stay there. I feel like they should, if they were going to try, and actually I'm surprised they haven't done this, and that doesn't mean they won't, but charging people to park for, dinner or for, to go shopping. It feels like it also feels a little bit like it's penalizing people who can't afford to fly, people who live just close enough. We're from North Carolina. There's no way I'm going to spend $500 to fly instead of $120 for us to drive down there.
Right. And look, this may clearly play into decision making, especially if you're coming down for an extended stay. Now you have to start saying, well, does it make more sense for me to drive and pay X amount versus flying? And look, time will tell if this will cause guests to look elsewhere. Will it cause guests to look and stay off property, or did it? And I think that's a calculated gamble.
It does, and that's not necessarily, I think, a bad thing, Lou. There are some really nice off-site, off-property resorts in Orlando.
Right. And like I said,
we've supplemented our trips with our DVC trips, paying the occasional cash stay off-site that are for less money even with the resort fees and parking fees added in, that are really nice. So this doesn't necessarily mean people need to give up their Disney vacations,
Right.
but maybe they need to reconsider staying on site.
And look, I have no connection to the company, but I get emails and I get Facebook messages, things on our page and on our group complaining about how, hey, I'm trying to stay at X resort and it's booked up. Like, it's not Easter weekend. I can't get in. So, you can flip the conversation around. Again, for argument's sake, you can flip the conversation around and look to all those people that said, hey, I can't even stay at the resort I want to stay at because it's booked up 6 months in advance. If this does, in fact, have some sort of a trickle-down domino effect of lowering the occupancy rate, you wonder if, how does that affect things one way or the other? If the occupancy rate lowers, does it open it up for guests who couldn't get in otherwise? Or does Disney look back at this and say, all right, maybe we need to tweak this a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, you start to look at the long term. There's been a lot of changes that have happened this year. They've changed the tiered pricing structure of the park tickets. Annual passes have become more expensive. We're paying for parking now, and we know the construction for the gondolas and for Star Wars Land is, making Disney look really heavily at trying to pay for all that stuff. What else is going to come? I'm a little scared. What else is coming down the pipeline as far as ways for them to try to either reduce the crowd, and all of the crowd reduction things they seem to be wanting to do seem to be costing people money, like pricing people out of their vacation. And like I said, we've been very fortunate as DVC members that a lot of the changes that they've made haven't applied to us, but man, it makes me feel really bad for everybody else and wonder at what point are they going to do something that's going to price us out.
Right. All right. Let me get a couple of the calls here. I appreciate your thoughts and your sentiments. And look, maybe the solution is you drive down to Walt Disney World in your car, you park at the airport where it's maybe cheaper every day, and then just take Magical Express to
That's
the resort.
Right. I've heard that. We're resourceful people, Lou.
Exactly.
We super fans are resourceful.
You know what? I might start letting people park in my driveway, and then I'll just shuttle you guys.
$1 million idea. You're onto something.
All right. It was good hearing from you.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Lou.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Again, I'm through. Hey, here we go. Relatively fast and furious. Hey, it's Lou. You're on the air.
Lou, it's Chris Salata. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I guess you could say this wonderful topic has definitely blown up the internet, hasn't it? Kind of like Ralph.
Absolutely. And look, this, whenever these things happen, this is the way that we are able to express our sentiments. And look, I know Disney is paying attention there, and they probably knew that there was going to be some blowback on this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, talked about this last night, and quite honestly, the question comes down to this: is this really going to deter people from coming to Disney?
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that you kind of think about the ticket prices increase, and you stop and you stay and you really look at it. It's like really not that. I'm not trying to make it sound small or discredit it, but in the overall scheme of things, it's all about budgeting. And people are still going to want to come to Disney. I know that there are still some people are going to say this is pushing them over the edge, and I respect that. But there's also just the idea that I'm a DVC member, so I don't necessarily have to worry about it for most times, but I do stay on cash at non-DVC resorts, so it's something I am going to have to take into consideration. But at the same time, I drive.
Right.
I drive from home. I park my car in the parking lot. I use Disney transportation the rest of the time. I don't touch my truck until I go home. And so for a person like me, I'm not necessarily one of those people in those pictures that
right.
kind of get stuck. And I've seen it. Everybody's seen it. Now, nobody likes this sort of thing to actually happen, and I get it. At the same time, it is a business. There's got to be a reason for this. We hear that it's to stay in touch with, current trends, et cetera. But, overall, I think there's a lot more people that would actually wish that to deter parking abuse from those that are staying outside of the resorts, that they would also charge them as well.
Well, what they're doing is it's not a matter of charging. You just can't stay. You just cannot park. And look, and I will tell you this as a local, which is sometimes frustrating. Hey, I want to go and just meet somebody for a cup of coffee at the Contempo Cafe or at Captain Cook's. I can't do it because I cannot park there if I'm not a guest or if I don't have a dining reservation. And you drive by the parking lot and they're mobbed. And what ends up happening is that it's even crowded for the guests who are trying to stay there, who do stay on property. Look, you can't build, a parking deck at the Polynesian. You can't build a parking deck at some of these resorts. So you are limited in terms of the amount of expandable space you have at these. So this is the only, there is really no other way to do it. There's really no other way to try and thin the herd and limit the number of cars on property.
Yeah, you have a very good point there. I've stayed DLT, in the past, and that is probably one of the most crowded parking lots ever. And whether or not you're parking over at the Contemporary side to go to Chef Mickey's or Cali Grill or something like that, or whether or not you're there as a hotel guest, it's crowded. It's just crowded all the time. But at the same time, to be very honest, I am not against people going to a resort, especially those who are local or coming out from a different resort or whatever, parking there, enjoying the resort, enjoying restaurants, meeting with people, and this, that, and the other. Sure, let that be free. But at the same time, when those people also just leave their car there and then go all day to a resort and enjoy the rest of the property, that is kind of crossing that line.
Yeah, well, look, and I think that's part of the reason why. I think it's a big reason why. I want to get a couple of the callers in here as well. I apologize to those of you who are getting busy signals and things like that. That is why they are spending and building the infrastructure on new mass transportation systems. The gondola system, yes, it's going to be fun, it's going to be unique, but it's also a way to help guests get from point A to point B without the feeling that they need to have a car. Because for a lot of people, myself included, I always felt that I needed to have a car in order to get where I wanted to go on property. They're trying to obviate that need, make it easier, make it less expensive for you by giving you some of these free options as well. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you calling in and weighing. I know a lot of people want to. A lot of people. I'm reading the comments are certainly have strong opinions about this one or the other.
Well, thanks for having me on, Lou. I hope you have a great evening and have a great one. Talk to you all soon.
Thanks, brother. You too.
Take care. Bye.
They are coming in fast and furious. Hey, this is Lou. You're on the air. Be nice. Don't shoot the messenger.
Finally, I was getting like carpal tunnel from hitting redial.
I'm sorry. And you are calling. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Lisa, a long-time listener, first-time caller.
I think you're actually a short-time listener and multi-time caller.
Yeah, who's counting?
So I have seen your comments both on Facebook and in the box tonight. I would love to hear you weigh in.
So I have a lot of thoughts on this. A lot. I have a decent economic background.
I'm sure you have a glorious 3-hour argument finale. You got a minute and a half.
Exactly. No, let me preface this because I think that I'm sometimes misunderstood. If anyone is a bigger fan of Disney than you, it's me. I love Disney. I am such a proponent of ticket prices being what they are or whatever they need to be. I feel like if you leave Disney feeling like you didn't get your money's worth out of your ticket price, you did it wrong. And I am fully aware that they are a for-profit business, and that's the way that they are going about their decision-making. All of that being said, the economics of it and the way that they think that if they're giving thought to, which I'm sure they are, the way that people make vacation-related decisions it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. I mean, when you take the fact that, they are, yes, you do normally pay if you're at a nice resort in Boston or New York or another major metropolitan area. Yeah, you're paying to park your car. I paid to park my car at my apartment in New York. That's not what this is. The on-property magic and the reason that people pay a premium to stay on property is not because they're getting a Four Seasons experience. It's because they're getting an immersive experience. And it's the perks that come along with that. And when you start nickeling and diming people rather than truly evaluating the cost of what product you're putting out, then you start to have problems. If Toy Story Land costs a lot of money, increase the ticket price to Hollywood Studios. Don't tell me to pay more for my deluxe villa or whatever, or my value resort because I had to drive rather than fly in an airplane.
And to be clear, just to be clear, again, I've got no horse in this race. But I do. It's hard to sort of argue. Disney has not said, oh, by the way, we're charging for parking because we need to pay for Toy Story Land, Galaxy's Edge.
But it's one of the things that you see come up again and again is people who are like sort of trying to play devil's advocate. Or
right. We're speculating as to why this decision is being made. So we're very much flying blind because we don't have access to the decision makers in terms of why they do this. So anything that we sort of say in terms of the causality is speculation.
Right. I mean, I think I'm just sort of trying to sort of, in a few minutes, address a lot of the things that you see come up in conversations over the course of the day. But I think that, the average family, first of all, is not as in tune to these things as 99%. The vast majority of the people who are in the box right now are way more tuned in than the average family who's planning a Disney, trip. Those people probably don't have that newsy on their spreadsheet for cost analysis, and when I said this online several times today, we would come down very, very frequently, especially once we had our annual passes when we lived in Maryland. We would come down all the time to Disney because the economics of it made sense at that point. I could drive down for a minimal amount of money. I had my AP already. We owned some DVC, or I could grab a room at Pop, and we could do like a weekend at Disney as economically as I could do Ocean City, Maryland, because we had sort of already paid in to the annual pass and DVC and whatever else. And so the trip made sense. Mm-hmm. Nobody is deciding not to take their car to Disney because of a $25 nightly resort fee. Nobody is deciding to fly instead of drive because the economics of that don't juggle out, right? Like to fly my family round trip down to Disney is a factor of 10 more expensive than driving them down.
Right. I mean, look.
So if I'm driving, and my spreadsheet doesn't change because they put this into effect.
Right.
So people are saying that it's to minimize the number of cars on property or to keep people more in the Disney bubble or keep them sort of there instead of at Universal. That's just not how it's going to shake out. I might stay off property because of this if I'm ticked off enough. I might go somewhere besides Disney more often because of something like this. I mean, probably not realistically, but all of that is much more likely, I think, than deciding to fly rather than drive to my Disney vacation because of a, at the end of the day, de minimis parking fee.
Right. And look, and I've seen, when you're talking about if you're staying at a value resort, you're staying there for 5 days, it's going to cost you $60-ish to park. $5.50. Right. It's going to cost you, I'm doing the math very quickly in my head, about $61 or whatever to park for 5 nights at a value resort. So that's not necessarily going to make or break. You can shave off that $60 potentially elsewhere. That's not going to be the thing that's going to necessarily make most guests stay off property. That $60.
Well, but even more so, it's not going to make it. It's not going to determine whether. It's not like I'm going to be like, oh gosh, like first of all, how many people even realize that this is the case until they get their bill at the end of their stay, who aren't us and
Right.
like all up in Disney's business every day? Like, but like the average guest is not going to be like, oh gosh, there's a new $15 value like parking fee every night. Like, we should really look into flying instead
Mm-hmm.
because that now makes sense. Like, that's not going to happen. So like these arguments of, and parking is nuts at the resorts. Like, I got turned away with a reservation at Yacht Club at 10 o'clock in the morning this weekend.
That's because they know you're scam. They know you're scam. You're just trying to go eat at Epcot.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You've done the math and say, you know what? It's easier to get charged $10 than it is to park in the Wonder Lot. I know you. I get you, Lisa Glassner.
But seriously though, like, nobody is deciding not to drive based on the economics of this chain. So all of these arguments of like the lots are too full and they don't want so many cars on property and they want people more immersed in the Disney experience, or even like the less, optimistic, they want people spending money at Disney instead of at Universal, so they don't want them to have their own cars.
I want to interject for a second.
Like,
because I'm stopping you for a second just because I want to read a comment because of who said it. It's from Lee Cockrell, who obviously knows Walt Disney World very well. So, so Lee says, I hate parking charges, but I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier. I pay for parking everywhere. Park at Disney Springs and bus it. Is Disney Springs parking still free? It is. Off-property hotels charge, and yes, it's annoying, but then again, life is often annoying. So, coming
but
from...
is that what you want? Is that what you want, the orange and lime garages full of, like, contemporary guests because they didn't want to pay the resort fee?
No,
like,
I love my orange.
I don't want that as a local, do you?
Don't touch my orange garage. I love me some orange garage.
I'm a little scared now that I'm responding to Lee, but
But look, this is,
And again, like, let me be totally clear. I am not up in arms over a $25 a night parking fee. I am I am Disney's biggest fan. I'm obsessed. Like, I will love it till the day I die. It's just that sometimes I see some things like this, and it's made for really, really interesting conversations all day today, because I love economics, and I love sort of the idea of economically controlled behavior. And I just can't shake it out. Like, I can't shake out how this made sense to anyone. It's such a nominal amount of money that they're making.
Okay. So good, because you're going to lead me to a point that I want to bring up, and I do want to take other calls as well. So one thing, and I've seen this discussed in the conversations today since this came out, is, well, what's next, right? When is Disney going to start charging for fast passes? Well, in Disneyland, they do, right? Disneyland's Max Pass is $10 per person, per ticket, per day.
Yep.
The same arguments can be, well, now they're nickel and diming me. Now I've got to pay for well, I mean, this is just, would you be more upset, Lisa, if you had to pay for parking or if you had to start paying for fast passes? Which will now, for your family of 5, cost you $50 per day.
It's an interesting question, right? Because it's a very different answer whether you're a local or a vacationer. As a vacationer, fast pass payment all day long, right? Like, it just makes...
It may not, because for some people, they need or they want to have their car for a variety of reasons. So, hey, I need to have my car, and if I have, $50, whatever.
No, I'm just saying, like, which one I have to pay for.
Right. Would you have lost your mind more if they said they started charging for fast passes?
As somebody who likes to pop into Epcot and ride a bun ride, yeah, it's probably a bigger effect on me. It's the danger of changing something that's been in place. If this sticks, which I assume that it will, a year from now, just like the seasonal ticket pricing and other things we've had conversations about in the past, I'm sure it'll be a moot point and everyone will have forgotten it. It'll be something that shows up on everybody's bill at the end of the day. To me, it's the economics of it that are more interesting. Like, it's the decision-making process. If Lee is on and listening and has, insight into this, which I'm sure he wouldn't, be able to share here, but it's fascinating to me because I'm seeing things like perks being offered to non-Disney resorts. Obviously, there's what they call them, the good neighbor hotels, or whatever the term is, the very small number of hotels that now have access to 60-day out fast passes. So they're extending perks like that to people staying off property. And I forget if extra magic hours are included in that, but then at the same time they're taking away the quote unquote benefits or perks of staying on property, like having to pay nightly to park your car.
Listen, I'm gonna leave you, and I'm gonna take another. I'm gonna leave you with the secret way. This is the way to do it. You want to come to Walt Disney World, stay on property with all the benefits, not have to pay for parking, and save a lot of money. You just pull your little Mazda CX-5 into Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort, get yourself a little campsite, pop up a little tent, you're good to go. It costs you like $39 a night. You've got community showers. You don't have to pay for parking, and you're a stone's throw from Magic Kingdom.
I don't come to Disney to glamp. And this is why I'm happy that I live a stone's throw from. Lee, if you're listening, send the minivans to my house.
Right. You know what? Listen, don't pay for parking. Just move here. It's just a lot easier to move here. That's
it is. Don't buy DVC because of this. Move here because of this. Exactly. It will solve all of your problems. All right, I'll stop.
Thank you for your thank you for your insights.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Listen, clearly this is a topic that again, the calls are coming in super fast. It is one that is generating passionate responses, and I'm watching the. And obviously, I was kidding about camping. I've actually never camped at Fort Wilderness, but I'm trying to sort of make light of this because I do understand people are, they're frustrated. And I don't know why I said a Mazda CX-5. It just sort of popped in my head. But Derek, yes, we are going to do a Move to Disney episode very, very soon as well. So, and Lee, if you have insight as to whether this is something that was talked about earlier and never happened, or the impetus for it, I certainly welcome it. You're also welcome to call into the show if you like as well. I'm going to let's see. I'm going to take another. Give you guys all a chance to respond. Hey, it's Lou. You are on the air. Be nice.
It's Amanda Catherine Lo Cicero.
Oh my goodness, Amanda! No, she said her name to make sure I don't mispronounce it again like I did at the beginning. It is so nice to hear.
It's nice to hear from you too. I have one question. Is there a reason why you're hold when you can't get in touch with you with a British or Australian accent?
It's just a Skype. It's the Skype number. That's not me. That is not me trying to do my
the British accent.
I'm not trying to do my best Emma or Martin accent. No,
Okay. So my thoughts on this. Let's get into this.
All right. Let me sit back, relax, and let this happen. Go ahead.
So here's my thing. Like, my husband and I, we do travel a lot, and I hate overnight parking fees. I think it's probably one of the most annoying things when I get that charge at the end of my stay. But it's standard, and I think that unless you're completely engulfed in the Disney community, like we all are, most guests are not going to notice a difference, because most people who are driving there probably do expect to have an overnight fee, because when you rent a car or drive anywhere, I mean, we always kind of expect it. And when you look at the park that shall not be named, they also do have an overnight parking fee.
Right.
So as much as I dislike it, as much as I don't want to have to pay it is something that is pretty standard.
Right. This is not something out of the blue, right? This did, and again, just to stop, if Disney was first resort to do this, it would be a much different story. And I'm not saying that just because everybody else is doing it, it doesn't make it unpleasant, but it's been industry standard for a long, long time.
Right. And whether they tack on the fee within each room, or they tack it on to your park fee, or you have to, again, pay for fast passes, or we can go real vintage and you have an E-ticket, A-ticket, a B-ticket, like that. I mean, so whether you tack it on that way, people are going to be in an uproar. People are going to be upset because it's something that's been the norm for a while. So that's, I mean, again, I don't like it. No one wants to spend money that they don't have to, or they're not used to doing. But, I mean, fly Southwest and take cheap flights and use Disney transportation. I don't know. I grew up driving there, though.
The most disappointing point about this whole thing is I need to completely redo so many parts of my 102 Ways to Save Money book. Because
oh my gosh. That's so true.
Right? Right? That's why they did it, just to make the redo it. Go ahead.
It's even funnier is today. I was going to email you. We booked a trip today, and then like an hour later, I got a notification that the change happened. And I'm like, well, at least I booked today.
Just under the wire. We just made it.
Yeah. So I have to email you the dates. Hopefully we can meet up this time because I missed you last time.
I would love to.
Okay.
Well, thank you very
Sounds
much.
Good.
I appreciate
No one yell at Lou.
Even better. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
Yeah, there was a comment that I saw coming through that I wanted to touch on. I don't believe this is in response to ESPN. Let me just quickly. I'm going through these to find out. I don't remember what there was a comment that I had wanted to respond to. Becky says, if you do book by March 21st, you will avoid the fee. Agents are standing by over at MEI and mousefantravel.com. But it's now, Amanda says it's now down to 101 ways to save money at Walt Disney World. I mean, look, and I think and I've seen some people make this argument too, that in the grand scheme of things, right? And again, I'm not justifying it. I value my dollar as much as you value your dollar. I don't want to spend it on parking. But if you're staying at Walt Disney World for a week and you're buying park tickets and food and souvenirs and hotel, again, I'm don't shoot the messenger. An argument I've seen been made that, well, if it's going to cost me $60 on top of the thousands of dollars, it's relatively de minimis in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying I agree with it, but would I rather spend that $61 to park staying at All-Star for a week, or would I rather spend for my family of five $50 a day to get fast passes? It's obviously a no-brainer in terms of, if you've got to spend one or the other, if this is a way to generate revenue, So let me take a couple more about this topic. Hey, it's Lou. You're on the air. Please be nice to me.
I will always be nice to you.
Oh, my goodness.
Nagy.
Listen, if Darlene Nagy from West Atlantic, New York yells at me, you know this is a controversial topic.
No. When I seen this come out today, I was a little surprised, but not really surprised, due to the fact that I think that after all the years of going to Disney, I honestly have not rented a car since 2001. Not that we don't like having a car, I just don't feel the need to have the car. We fly in from Buffalo to MCO, we get on the Magical Express, takes us door to door, and use all the transportation. I've noticed over the past few years, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know how often you've used the buses, but I've noticed that the buses have gotten more crowded. So I'm wondering if a lot of people are now changing their mind about using the Magical Express and bringing their cars back to drive back and forth to the parks. I have a friend, my friend Judith, that always rents a car because she does not like how crowded the buses are, the transportation. So there are more people parking. And like you said, I don't know where we're going to meet when we come down in May now, since we can't go to Captain Cook's together.
I mean, look, there's a lot of moving parts to this, right? So you said the buses are always crowded. Look, they are the days of Walt Disney World having slow seasons are over. Those days are long over. And I tell the story ad nauseum, so forgive me, but I have a picture of me in Magic Kingdom in Frontierland looking over to Liberty Square, and there's one other person there. And this was at like 9:30 on midweek, obviously in off season. Those don't happen anymore. The parks are crowded, and I've got news for you. Like, the parks are about to get a whole lot more crowded because I don't think that people were necessarily making plans and reservations to fly down to go see Pandora, but you bet your bippy people, when Galaxy's Edge opened, every nerd on the planet, and I use nerd affectionately, is going to swarm on Walt Disney World. Where and how are you going to accommodate all of these guests and all of the cars and traffic that you bring with them? It is becoming, it's a pain point for people. But that the parks are crowded. They can't stay at the resorts. They can't park at the resort. Like, whether you're local or a visitor, there's no simple answer to this, right? There's no, and somebody said, this is all Lou's fault. He told everybody 102 ways to save money at Walt Disney World in the park. So Disney's got to raise prices. So some people are like, the buses are a pain. They need more buses. We need less buses. They're trying to come up with a way to balance and counter the crowds. Look, and time will tell how things like not just minivans, but more importantly, the gondola system are going to affect that. But, oh, by the way, they happen to be building a new tower at one of the moderate resorts, a brand new Riviera resort, the Star Wars resorts. That is not the only resort expansion that's coming, so get ready for it, because they need a place to put all these people. And I get it. You've got all these guests coming in. Look, if you're Disney, flip the switch for a second. If you're Disney, do you want people staying off property, eating off property, spending money off property? No. You want to do everything that you can to keep people in that bubble. You can't fault Disney for that, right? You can't fault Disney for that. So they obviously, look, it's a tough balance to strike because they need to obviously pay for things. They need to find a way to satisfy guests' frustration from how crowded the parks are, how crowded it is to drive. I will tell you as a local that sometimes I will look on Twitter and Facebook and see the lines of cars and saying, you know what, maybe I'm not going to go to the parks today. Like, I was disappointed when I had to park in like West Wonder. Like, I was literally like 2 rows from the end, from the back. I couldn't have found a farther spot to park. And this was not, on Christmas Day. So it is the parking and the people is not necessarily the issue, but the cars are an issue. I have pictures and videos of lines of cars that the entrance to Magic Kingdom was backed up to the Swan and Dolphin. Like, wow, that's a lot of cars, man. That's a lot of cars. That's a lot of waste. You want to talk about wasting time? That's a lot of wasting time in your car just to get into the park.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. It's like, we use all the transportation. If we're staying on the monorail, we're staying at the boardwalk in May. So I might very well walk through Epcot and use the monorail to get over to Magic Kingdom instead of, trying to take a bus or something, because it might be faster and easier than taking the buses. But, thinking of our travels, now, I know Lisa mentioned about would you fly or drive? I'm not driving 18 hours from Buffalo to Florida right now. That's just crazy. For me to take a direct flight for 2.5 hours is perfect for us, as long as I can get a good deal. Because, I looked at one of my flights, and it was like, it could have cost me $900. And I was like, oh, no. But luckily, my other preferred airline was great. But, we also have to think, can we get somebody to take us to the airport? Because the airport parking is even more. It's like $45 a day. And I wouldn't pay $45 a day to park my car, I have not used Uber yet on property. We might. We've used a taxi there when we stayed at the Bailey Tower. There was taxis right outside that we used to go over to. I think it was to the boardwalk when we left. It was very simple and easy. They had them right there. So you don't need to have a car on property. You really don't. There's other modes of transportation.
And I think that's what they're trying to show people, is that you don't necessarily need your car. We're going to give you, new ways, better ways. They've improved the bus system by having the monitors everywhere. They've added the number of buses in the fleet, the number of drivers in the fleet. So there are markedly more buses than there were before. They do give you another relatively luxury option with the minivans. It's you have to pay for it, but for a lot of people, it's worth the convenience and not having the hassle of having your own car. Look, unfortunately, there's no resolution. There's no right answer to this that's gonna satisfy everyone, because you're either gonna complain that the parking lots are too crowded, or complain that you have to pay to park to try and thin the herd to make the parking lots too crowded. And
right.
There's no this is a lose-lose situation all the way across the board.
I'm not upset with Disney at all. I mean, $24 a day. I have DVC, so if I wanted to get a car, I could have a car. I have annual pass too.
So when you do me a favor, when you come down with your car, can you get us about 250 parking passes? Just say you have to.
I will try very, very hard to do that.
I have 250 cars, and we'll just hand them out to the box people.
Exactly. That would be perfect. But I want you to take another call. I just wanted to call in and give you my point of view. And I love you, and good luck tonight.
Thanks. Love you too. Say hi to the family for me.
I will. You say for me too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. So look, I get it. It's a, oops, hang on. I think I'm still on the call here. There is no, look, the answer is there is no answer. That's going to certainly make everybody happy. Like Lee said, this is something that some people might say was a long time coming. We don't have to like it, but it is what it is. And at some point, the pain of this will go away the same way pain, ticket price increases and all the other things eventually go away. And look, at something that we're all going to have to just budget into when we know that, we're going to be staying overnight. So, let me take another call here, and I know we can probably do this all night long. Hey, this is Lou. You're on the air, and as prior callers have said, please be nice to me.
Hi, Lou. Stan Solo here.
Hey, Stan Solo from the Great White North. How are you, brother?
I'm not sure if you heard it, I've had to get an emergency eye operation, so I've been better.
Oh, man, I know, bro. I saw that, buddy. You look good, though. Yeah. You're like a pirate.
Well, that's where the patch of bedtime.
You're like a Canadian pirate.
Canadian pirate, Captain Clear Eye, Captain Clear Patch. So, anyways, so flying in from Canada, I've never ever had a car in Florida. I've never parked in Florida. I've never had to pay for parking, obviously, right? But I do take the buses a lot, and I often, I'm on the social media a lot. I see a lot of people commenting about. Is it worth renting a car? Is it not worth renting a car? And often people will say, well, yeah, you rent a car, you get to park for free at the resort, you get to park for free at the parks. And, depending on what you can get the car for, it might be worth it for you to not take the buses. And I can see a lot less people renting cars now that do fly out. Because I do know a lot of people that do fly out, they'll rent a car if they can get it cheap enough for $30 a day, they'll rent a car and then, park for free. The buses are pretty crowded as they are. I'm thinking the buses are going to be even more crowded. Well,
this is hard because we don't have somebody at Disney to ask these questions to, but it would make logical sense for bus fleet to increase to accommodate the number of people who are not going. They're not going to make this decision, know what the secondary and tertiary effects are going to be, and not plan for it ahead of time. I know nothing But
Yeah.
as a,
So
it would
now
make
let me
sense.
play devil's advocate here.
Right.
If they do increase the bus fleet and they bring in more buses, to handle these extra people, what are they going to raise to pay for the extra buses?
Well, that's what these fees could potentially be going to.
Or it could be,
Right?
yeah.
Look, I mean,
like to me, it would make more sense if they charge for people to pay to park at the parks, because you're talking about less people. Now, if you're staying on property, you don't pay for parking at the parks, right?
Right, but now you want people to really lose their marbles and have to pay to park at the parks?
Well, then they'll take the buses more.
Right, but the problem is, and I say this as a local, I have a very difficult time going to most resorts if I want to meet somebody to eat, go grab a snack, go take pictures, do a scavenger hunt. It's difficult because, like, if you don't have reservations or if you're not dining here, even if you don't have you can't even dine at quick service here, you can't park here. So now I'm like, well, wait a minute. How do I go to, Resort X? How am I supposed to get to the beach club to go have ice cream if I'm not allowed to park there because the parking lot is too crowded? So if I want to take my kids to beaches, and by kids I mean me, if I want to take my kids to beaches and cream, are you saying I need to park in Epcot, walk all the way through, come out International Gateway, walk to Boardwalk, walk to Beach Club, and then go all the way back to my car?
Or take a bus from somewhere. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
Right. And I will tell you, Stan, that happens a lot. Like, I feel like a criminal sometimes when I'm parking at the resort. I'm not as slick as Lisa, but I feel like a criminal when I go in. I'm like, I'm here to meet somebody, to have lunch. Here, just take my money. I just want to park. Like, I feel bad because all I want to do is park there. And I don't want to make a dining reservation and take that seat away from somebody that's already have a difficult time getting reservations in some of the resort restaurants.
Well, like when I stay at Pop Century, I always see empty parking spots. I've never ever. Only time I've ever seen Pop Century parking lot completely full was during the hurricane when people from the coast of Florida were coming inland to find places to stay.
Right.
And they were staying at Pop Century. That parking lot was completely jam packed, and that was the one and only time I've ever seen the Pop Century resort parking lot full. So I agree, probably a lot of resorts that might be an issue, but it's not at every resort. So why would you charge at every resort then?
Again, I would love to have somebody. I'd love to have the decision maker from Disney here.
We don't know the answer.
Because I want to be clear. I'm not trying to defend it because I don't want to pay either. I certainly want to pay either, but I'm trying to understand and I'm trying to rationalize it because I have a feeling that this conversation was probably one that internally sparked equal debate. And what I mean by that is when whomever came and said, we should start charging parking at the resorts like everybody else does, there was an equally loud, heated debate because many of the people that work as cast members are Disney fans first. They understand from where we come in terms of what we want to spend and not. So they would understand the backlash that this would bring out. So I wish I knew more about, well, hey, listen, part of the reason why we're doing this is because we need to allocate funds for A, B, C, and D. You guys all want the fifth gate. You want Star Wars Land. Money has to come from somewhere because, again, this is...
Well, I can tell you where the money's going to come from. The parks are freaking crowded.
It's going to come from you buying all the Star Wars merchandise when Galaxy's Edge.
Well, yeah, that too. But yeah, like the parks, the parks are way more crowded than they've ever been.
Yep.
I mean, that's where the money's going to come from to pay for those. So you can't, it doesn't add up. Like it's not like as if they're crying the blues as far as income coming in.
Right. So.
But anyways, on the other point you made about if they were to start charging for fast passes, like you do at Disneyland with the Max Pass, Disneyland they also you are still able to get the free fast passes. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Max Pass.
The old style paper passes.
Yeah. And Max Pass is something optional. It's an optional, add-on.
And it's amazing. The Max Pass is an amazing thing.
So you have paid the $10 per person per ticket per day and have been okay with that added expense.
Well, okay. When I went 4 days, and I spent 1 day where I paid the extra $10, and I figured I'll get because your photos include that, right? So I figured I'd get my photos that day do my fast passes that day. What an easy system to use with that Max Pass. I was really impressed with it.
Right. Yeah. Even
No,
Becky
it was
says,
just it was my daughter and myself. It was one day. It was an extra $20.
right.
You know, if it was a family of four going for 4 days, and it's an extra, $40 per day per person, or per day, it can add up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need to get it every day if you're going for 4 days.
It's very interesting. It is very time will tell. Time will tell how this system works out and plays out. Will guests respond with their wallets? Will this sort of just be factored in? I think it's probably more to the latter. The initial shock of this is what sort of stings us in our hearts, but in time, like many other things that are additional charges or upcharges or increases for one reason or another, the pain starts to so
Yeah, exactly.
so
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what time will bring us.
yeah, man. Yeah. So all right, listen, man, feel better. I hope to
okay, thank you.
I hope to see you again soon, buddy.
Alrighty.
All right, man.
So I'll see you in Alaska.
That's right. I can't wait.
Less than 100 days.
I know, we're at like 96 or something. We're doing the double
Around
digit
there,
dance.
Yeah. Darlene will tell us.
All right,
okay,
buddy.
take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So it is, yeah, there is no resolution to this question. We just sort of go around in circles. And like I said, I get it. I'm not saying that I love it, because I don't, but you can certainly make an argument as to why it is happening. And Jason says, this is definitely not going to stop me from going to our happy place. So let me take 8:42. Let me take one more. Hey, this is Lou. You're on the air. Or are you?
Hello?
Turn down your radio.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Lou. Hey, how are you?
Good. Who's this?
This is John Fletcher, WDW running team member, and proud of it.
Yeah, brother. How you doing?
Oh, real good. How about yourself?
Good. It's good to hear from you.
Oh, man, that's wild. So, yeah, I'm calling tonight's the night before my platoon shipping out. We're going to Kentucky for 2 weeks of training. We're going to be in the woods for 2 weeks, so not a fun vacation like my normal Disney trip, but we're still looking forward to it. And we've got all our WDW Radio podcast queued up and ready to listen to keep us occupied.
And thank you for your service. I mean,
no, we appreciate it. So yeah, I'm calling about. I am one of the rare few who's not super incensed about the parking increases. I understand that it's going to affect a lot of people's vacations in a lot of ways, but I don't know. To me, I use the Magical Express, I use Disney Transportation, and I love it all. So I don't have a huge problem with it.
And I think, I look, the people who are upset are usually the most vocal, and understandably so. And I am not saying that they don't have reason to be upset, but I think that you are not alone because it might not affect you as much as it does other people. So I understand, and it's nice to hear somebody, call expressing the opinion that not everybody is completely aggravated. But I think it's based on who you are and how you vacation, how much you need to budget, all of which I'm obviously completely sensitive to. But again, for some people, look, I mean, I don't stay on property, so does this affect me as much? Certainly not. But I do understand where people are coming.
Yes, well, and I stay on property every single time. For me, when I go to Disney, I've read every book in the series of the not to be mentioned place up the road, but that is not my vacation zone. When I fly into Orlando, I'm at Disney, and that's where I go and that's where I stay. My sister, she'll often drive in and stay overnight, and as far as I'm concerned, $20 a night, and you get the convenience of not having to use the Disney transport if you don't have to. Say if you got an extra magic hour and you want to hopefully gate crash Pandora and get on Flight of Passage real early, it might be worth it to you to have that car instead of taking the Disney transport.
Right. Yeah, look,
So,
and again, as we're talking, I'm reading comments as they are going by. I certainly understand. People are questioning what the motivation is behind it. What is it for? What is the extra revenue? Going to be allocated for? I can't obviously answer a lot of those questions, but I think this is one of those things that's going to take time before we see what impact, if any, this is going to really have.
I agree, and I think so too. And hopefully, maybe we'll get another cool Marvel land sometime soon
Right.
because of this, or something like that. Or it could mean maybe that Star Wars hotel gets built a little quicker or something like that.
You never know what's on the horizon.
It's tough to put things tangible.
Look,
yeah.
for as quote unquote, bad unforeseen announcements like this, there's a lot of good unforeseen announcements that are coming your way in the next 6 months. You are going to be surprised, and 6 to 8 months, you are going to be surprised by some of the things that are happening. Like this was like these conversations were happening backstage. There are other conversations and plans happening backstage that you're going to go, oh, so that's the money for. Oh, now I get it. Now I don't mind spending $13 a night to park.
Yeah. No, I think I tend to be, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but I tend to have faith in what they do. Everyone was wild about Pandora when they first announced it, and now the lines can speak for themselves.
Yeah. So, well, I
But,
appreciate you listening. Right, listen, stay safe, stay cool. You're doing your deployment and training, and again, my family and I thank you for your service, brother.
No, we should. Thank you so much. I don't know how you're doing tonight with the call stuff, keeping your head on the swivel. You're a man.
A lot of things going on all at once.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking my call. Great to talk to you.
Right, take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right, bye. All right, let me try and catch up with the and I'm trying to watch the conversations, and I'm taking the calls as quickly as I can, as quickly as they are coming in. And I see you guys are having conversations internally between each other as well. Becky, I know you're trying to get through. You're probably getting busy signals because I cannot see your number coming in. But let me take another call just for fun, and then we'll move on to something else. Maybe. Hey, this is Lou. You're on the air. Please be nice to me.
Oh, Lou, I'm always going to be nice to you. This is Nikki Keller.
I know it's Nikki Keller. I was going to say, what's your name, where you're calling from, but I know what your name is, and I sort of know where you're calling from.
Oh. Yeah, like around Four Corners. You know where I'm calling from. Anyways, okay, so completely taking the emotion out of it, because to be completely honest, this is not a pitchfork and torch situation. And the reason I think that is because it's a systemic problem. There are a lot of pain points, and I loved that you used the word pain points earlier. And real quick before I forget, is that you can't really compare Disneyland to Disney World or to a Four Seasons or anywhere else because they're not the same. That's not an apples to apples comparison. But to get to my main point, at some point in time, someone statistically figured out how many spaces per room would probably be needed. As Disney's grown, that's continued. The older resorts obviously have not had expansions. So if we're talking just strictly the money for a parking spot, it really doesn't matter because someone's going to pay it. if one person says they're not going to come because of that, then there's going to be 3 or 4 behind them that will. And there's still going to be the 2 or 3 that are upset that they couldn't come in. So my question is, and I'm interested, I would love to be in the room when they were talking about this.
Right.
Because like I said, it's a systemic problem. There is a problem with the fact that they've grown fast. Maybe grown faster than they really thought infrastructure-wise. And with that, now they're trying to figure out the best way they can maybe even Band-Aid the problem, not even necessarily fix it. But again, throwing money, and whether you look at it as them throwing money or them throwing our money, however you want to look at it, the question is, what is that really going to do in the long term? And does it really fix anything in the short term?
It might. I think time is going to tell. I mean, we're not going to look. This is not something that we're going to see there's not going to be any sort of measurable change for months, because people are booking trips not for tomorrow. They're booking trips 6 months to a year and a half down the road. So we really won't know the effect of this for some time to come. And I think the question we also need to ask too is, well, let's say we were in on those meetings and they say, look, we've got a problem. The problem is we've got too many cars. We're talking about resorts specifically, not theme parks. Theme parks too, but we have too many cars and not enough spaces. We can't build a parking deck in front of Port Orleans Riverside. It just, you can't do it. Then the pitchforks are going to come out, because you can't have that, right? You can't change the design. So how do we rectify this problem? We're doing great things, right? We're at 90% 90 to 95% capacity all year long. That's exactly what the bean counters want to see. That's what the stockholders certainly want to see. But how do we figure out how to reduce the number of guest vehicles parking at the resorts on property? And I don't know that anybody has an answer to it.
I know, because even if you take a Six Sigma look at it, and you even Fishbone, all the pain points, it's like a domino effect. If you're fixing one somehow here, there's other pain points that all this growth and truly, like you just said, the 95% that you want and that the shareholders want, you obviously you want to keep that. But if you haven't been prepared or ready for that along the way, then how are you going to fix this one thing without touching 3 other things?
I want to read a comment that Chris Banish just posted. She said, I saw people make comments in different groups today that said they were canceling their trips and never coming again. I said, good, more room for me. Chris, I've seen those comments time and time again. I've seen when they announced Pandora. I saw them when they announced those, and then when they opened Pandora, that same dude, I literally can point to screenshots, that same dude is like, hey, look at me, first day Pandora, I'm the first one here. I wonder how many people really are going to cancel their trip for a $13 per night charge to park at Valley. You're going to tell your daughter, who's been dressing like Elsa, or your son, whatever, or you, dressing like Elsa for months, getting ready for her trip, that now because of a $13 charge, the same cost as a hamburger or 3 bottles of water a day, you're going to cancel your trip? I wonder how many people. It's easy to say that on Twitter when your name's Dopey Dude 77. It's another thing when you have to look at your daughter and say, I'm canceling our $5,000 trip for $13 a day. And I'm not minimizing the cost. It's a real thing to take into account. But those people that are trying to make a point by saying, well, I'm canceling my trips, I'm never going to Disney again, I wonder how realistic that really is.
Well, and I think that's just obviously emotion talking. Sure. And no one's sitting back and thinking. And you're right. I mean, possibly when they looked at their issues, they figured that this was the easiest way to get done what they need to get done with what they have and the availability of space that they have.
Right.
It is interesting from a planning standpoint, from a weight standpoint, from a process standpoint, and then also economically, like I've heard before, and I believe that's like one of Lisa's main things is not so much about being upset about this particular issue. It's just, is this the correct place to be trying to shape what your outcome is how you want your outcome? If you want less cars on property, who's going to pay? If they're paying for the Grand Floridian, they're going to pay $24 a day to park or night up to park. It's going to happen. But what are other ways that they could add a little money to this, add a little money to that would actually accomplish? I guess that's my thing. I don't feel this is going to accomplish.
So again, I'm only playing devil's advocate, because if you add a little money to this and you add a little money to that and you start to charge a little bit for that, that is the de facto definition of being nickeled and dimed. So
well, absolutely,
right.
Absolutely, but you don't just add here and add there willy nilly. Like, I mean, there's a perfectly good reason. Like, you could raise, like Lisa said, alcohol prices in Epcot. There's a perfectly good reason why you could up the dining and up the prices at Magic Kingdom, because of supply and demand. So I'm just curious about how the mind, the think tank,
right.
decided that this was one, because I really don't think this is the only thing that's going to happen.
Sure.
But that this is one of the first things, because I mean, like overnight, $2 per car to park went up. I mean, like literally, TJ and I were in the theme park one weekend, and I'm driving like to the next day or two, and parking for cars went up $2.
Again, I am only playing devil's advocate. I should have a screen.
I know.
So right. So parking goes up, ticket prices goes up, the cost of food goes up, the cost of drink goes up, the cost of add-on experiences goes up. It's the circle of life, right? It's the nature of the beast. It's inflation. People, need to you need to hire more people. You need to pay people higher wages. And every time we see, different unions fighting to get more wages, that money has to come from somewhere. The money to build the infrastructure has to come from somewhere. So we just are more sensitive to it because this is, this is such a special place to us. We have such an emotional connection to it. If you go and you travel and the price of your room at the Hilton goes up $20, you're like, that's inflation. Our price at the Hilton goes up $20. When it happens at Disney, we collectively lose our marbles because, of the way we feel about this place.
And I completely understand that devil's advocate point of view, and I would counter your devil's advocate with my devil's advocate of, then where do you pick to single out people that are going to pay for those insurance raises and pay raises and whatnot? Because this could be, like you said, for traffic, cars. This could be for a million reasons. Right. I really don't know that it's because they're going to repave every parking lot and it's maintenance fees for the parking overnight.
You're local. That road, that new entrance to Magic Kingdom and all the roads and the fly, that's costing them money. Like, that's not, those are not cheap. We're not talking hundreds of thousands. You're probably talking, in seven figures amount of money. Again, I'm just sort of, I'm trying to rationalize it in my own mind too. Like, okay, this money is obviously not just going into the executives board's pockets. It's being used, on property for the benefit of everybody.
But as a former accountant, that makes me interested too, because how do they keep the books? How do you move from one type of of GL code to another, and we could get on in that.
Right.
That's neither here nor there. But yeah, you usually don't take appropriations for one thing and, then pay for a gondola with it. But that's just me.
So listen, like I said, I completely get it. I understand, and I get the frustration too. But I appreciate you weighing in.
I'm curious.
I have to look up half the word, all those accounting words that you said. I have to go look up now. So.
Sorry. All right. Well, thank you, Lou.
And I will see you soon for coffee. I promise.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. So, yeah. Look, it's there's a lot of different ways to approach this. What is happening, and the reasons for it. What the ultimate trickle down effect, only time will tell. We will see how it affects, if in any way, how it affects the way guests get to the park, how often guests go to the park, if and where and when they stay, when they come here. It will be very interesting to see. So I would love to keep this conversation going on again as civilly as possible. I would love to have these conversations take place, if we can, over in the WDW Radio Box People group on Facebook. If you go to www.com/boxpeople or search for Box People on Facebook, I want you to be part of the community. I want you to be part of the conversation. I think this is a very interesting discussion to continue to have. So please let's continue to have there. By the way, I saw a couple of people ask, what does my shirt say? It's obviously food related. It's tasting your way around the world. I'm preparing myself for the ongoing flower and garden / food and wine festivities. I did see Becky and a couple of people ask about the event announcement that I hinted to on the Facebook and maybe the Twitter and maybe elsewhere. Disney change on the citrus swirl. I have not tried the new orange swirl as yet. I cannot comment on the difference in the taste of it or the economic impact that it might have. So I will have to get to. If Magic Kingdom wasn't so crowded, I could get over there and go and check it out. So you guys are asking about the announcement. This is something that it's something that I've done before. It is something that I am bringing back again, and I'll start off by asking you questions. Right? Maybe this is the way, and you're going to figure out what this is very, very quickly. Because look, you guys have, and I say this every week on the show, if you listen to the end, you guys have blessed me with the opportunity to not only get out of the practice of law, but more importantly, do what I love full time. And that makes me the happiest, luckiest guy on the planet. And I want to help you do the same, right? So the questions I have are, do you want to find a way to turn what you love into what you do? Do you want to make changes maybe to your business or your life? Have you gone to conferences and have left like I have in the past with pages of notes and you never take action? And then maybe you start to achieve some success and then you can't get things to the next level. Do you often feel lonely on your journey like I know I have? And maybe you're looking for a community of like-minded people. Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, I am super excited to announce that Momentum Weekend Workshop is coming back to Walt Disney World this October, from October 6th through the 9th, 2018. What Momentum is, it is a weekend-long workshop here in Walt Disney World. It is a weekend-long conference in Walt Disney World that takes place over 2 days, where limited to 50 entrepreneurs to get together for learning and sharing and troubleshooting and making some of those changes through collective brainstorming. We've had an amazing group of speakers over the past couple of years. There's workshops, because what I want to happen is you not leave with that notebook. I want real changes and results to happen on the spot. And then if you want, I have an optional mastermind day. The Monday mastermind day is actually sold out already, so I added a Tuesday mastermind day, which is limited to just 10 attendees. We do a real sort of deep dive onto exactly who you are, what you want to do, your challenges, your business, and your goals, and make a lot of things happen right there in the room. Now, I can tell you that although I am announcing Momentum to you tonight, I did announce Momentum yesterday to the to past attendees and to members of the WDW Radio Nation, because membership does have its privilege. Momentum is already 35% sold out, and that was earlier today. I have not checked the numbers today. The Monday mastermind session is completely sold out. I added Tuesday. That Tuesday day is already 30% sold out. So if you are interested, you can go to loumongello.com/momentum, and I'll tell you sort of what's included in that. You get not just the 2 days of the speakers and discussions and the workshops. You'll also get a workbook. There's some networking opportunities. Lunch is provided because, hi, I'm Lou Mongello. Did I mention, of course, it just so happens to not coincidentally be during Epcot's Food and Wine Festival. Again, there's lots more. It takes place at the Wyndham in Lake Buena Vista. I don't know if they charge for parking. I should have looked this up ahead of time, but if not, I'll just drive you there because I don't think, do they charge for parking? They might. They probably do. I'm joking, of course. But again, to find out more, you can visit loumongello.com/momentum. I know a lot of people who are in the box tonight have been there in the past, but wait, there's more, because in addition to Momentum, I am doing something additionally, something that I've been thinking about doing for a while that is really meant to both supplement that conference, possibly prepare you for that conference, and really do something that is a little bit different. So I think one of the ways that I am able to help people most and that the greatest benefit comes is out of a mastermind day. And if you're not familiar with it, is I limit my mastermind days to just 10 people where we really sort of dig deep into everybody's businesses and challenges and things like that. And sometimes because people who come to Momentum are at different stages of their business or want to spend a little more time doing that, I had this idea of doing a pre-Momentum mastermind session. But what if instead of a full day or sort of a half-day mastermind session, what if it was an entire weekend? And what if that weekend was just limited to 10 people? And what if it was in Orlando? And what if those 10 people wouldn't just work together, but they would stay and play and eat and mastermind together in a single luxury vacation home? And what if I told you that if you're one of those 10 people, if you register, you not only get to stay in the vacation pool home, have your own room, we'll have a group meal on Friday night, all meals on Saturday, retreat material, breakfast on Sundays, and really a powerful weekend to strategize and prioritize and start making real progress, or start making progress on whatever your business or your idea or your blog or your website or your podcast or whatever that thing is that you want to do full time. And what if I told you that this Momentum Weekend Retreat is going to take place the first weekend in June? So what I have planned is a weekend-long, very small mastermind event where 10 people are going to get together for a 3-day retreat in a vacation home in Orlando from Friday, June 2nd until Sunday, June 4th. And to make sure that you focus only on the event, I'm going to take care of everything. So you get 2 nights in the vacation home. Everybody gets their own room, all your meals, all your snacks, all the retreat materials, all that. It's a great way, especially if you're thinking about coming to Momentum and maybe you're not sure if you're there yet. It's a great way to really sort of deep dive. And oh, by the way, I will take care of parking. Free parking. There's no cost to park at the vacation home. Now, I'm opening it up to you guys first before I share it tomorrow. Again, I did open it up to the people who are already in the mastermind group. And if you do come with us, you will have lifetime access to our mastermind group. So right now there's only 6 spots remaining out of the 10. So if you want to find out more, you want to see pictures of the home, ask me any questions, you can visit loumongello.com/retreat. So whether you want to come in June and come in October or one or the other, they are certainly not dependent on each other. But if you are thinking about coming to Momentum and not sure that you're there yet or you're ready yet or you want some sort of one-on-one small group time, the retreat is a great idea. It'll be a lot of fun too. Just 10 of us in the pool house. If you go, not the pool house, but a vacation home that happens to have a pool. If you go to loumongello.com/retreat, you can see some photos and find out more about it. And again, just message me on Facebook or email me if you guys have any questions. So, Melanie, I don't know if I can do towel animals on the bed. I will do the best that I can. Possibly chocolates on the pillow at night. Turn down service. I mean, I'll do what I can, but I'm there to work and I'm there to help you guys out as well. And like I said, I believe that right now we only have, I think there's only 6 spots left for. I'll tell you that right now because I did see somebody ask. I believe. Hang on one second. There might even be less than that. Let's see. So right now there's only 5 spots left. I take that back. There are now only 5 spots left for the retreat, and the Momentum Weekend Workshop in October is already, I think, like 37% sold out. So if you're interested in coming to either, please let me know. Will there be a dancing stage? Keith, if you are there, you are welcome to dance. Will I read you bedtime story? There's a better chance of me reading you maybe I will. We'll have we'll have bedtime with Lou Mongello, and I'll put you guys to sleep with my now completely outdated 102 ways to save money for. I'll just put on a show. It'll knock you guys right out. So, but will there be a showing of the grease tape to the Lucky 10? Oh man, I should say if we sell out tonight, maybe I would. We'll see. If we sell out tonight, I'll think about it. Well, if I sell it tonight, I'll think about it. Will there be karaoke and pajamas party? Possibly. So, again, somebody asked for the links for the Momentum event. It's Lou Mongello. If you just go to loumongello.com, find the link to Momentum and retreat. I have not posted it on there as yet, but if you go to loumongello.com/retreat, that will take you right to the page there. So, read Duffy like all the resort. But yes, somebody else asked, parking is free. Karen says, I just listened to your newscast where I introduced the 102 Ways book. Gosh, that was a long time ago. David Potts said, I just registered greasetape.com for you. That is a website that will probably never, ever, ever be utilized, at least in the way that you guys are thinking. So, let me see if there are any other quick questions that I can take in here. Richard Begley's been working MegaCon. Let me be wrecked. I'm going to MegaCon. I dig me some MegaCon. Although I will not be in costume. I will just be me as me. So, let's see. It's 9:04. Do we have time for 20 questions tonight? Oh, do we? Melanie Jo, love that. Thank you so much. I listen. I loved having Dave on the show. He was such a kind, generous guy. I wish we had more time to chat together because I could have just talked to him for hours and hours and hours. There's so many other stories. We chatted for a few minutes before and after, and so many more stories that I know he could have shared. So, excuse me. What do I think of Atlantic Dance Hall for a New Year's party? I think Atlantic Dance Hall is one of the most beautiful venues in Walt Disney World. It is underutilized, and it's probably an awesome place for New Year's Eve. And parking at the boardwalk is probably free. So, Joe Fu said, solid podcast this week. Joe Fu, I know you dig that, man. I know you dig all the puppety stuff. So, again, I only had more time to chat with him. So that was the only downfall of that. So, Scott Otis, you're not booking Momentum Weekend. I know you. You're just going to creep outside the house all night. So, Joe Fu, I wanted more too. I was actually supposed to only have like 10 minutes with him, and I just kept going. I stretched it to like 35 or 40 minutes. So, it was great to chat with him. Really, really nice guy. Really, which I like to see. So, yeah, we'll talk more, about the Muppets as well. I as a Muppet fan and knowing what the early plans were for Muppets, I would not be surprised, and I know nothing, but I would not be surprised to see Muppets coming to the parks. So, Derek Dysart's daughter, I don't know what your daughter's name is, but please tell her I said good night, and it's late. She needs to go to bed and get her rest. So, Aramis Salazar Gaudet says, sorry if I butchered your name, I love the Muppets. The story I told was true. I literally had 5 Muppet big puppets that I used to do puppet shows with. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I have to show you something. Wait, hold on a second. Look at this while I go get something. Hold on. Look at that. So I got to tell you that I don't need these headphones anymore. I am so incredibly fortunate and blessed. You guys are so generous to me, not just with your time, but you guys send food. Like so much of the stuff that I have on these shelves and in my office and on that Spider-Man wall are from you. So this week, I actually picked up my mail, and I was giddy beyond words to get my Avengers Infinity War Iron Spider. I don't even know how I got this so fast and so early. And just when I thought it couldn't get any cooler, I opened up this huge box. I had no idea what to expect. And then the more I opened, the more I was like, wait a minute, is that really what I think it is? And listen, if you know me, if you've heard the show before, obviously look around the room and look at my wall. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm a huge Marvel fan. And I am so out of my mind, ready for Infinity War. The only thing that the brains falling out of my head, right? Excited for Infinity War. I open up this box and I couldn't believe what I saw because, well, maybe it's just easier if I show you rather than I tell you, because if you are a Marvel fan, you know, leading up to this movie, it has been hinted at on a number of the earlier Marvel films. The bad guy, the main villain of this, is going to be a gentleman by the name of Thanos, and he is on a quest. A quest for fun? No, he's on a quest for Infinity Stones that he needs to fill his Infinity Gauntlet with, like the Infinity Gauntlet, like this. Somebody sent me a giant, life-sized Infinity Gauntlet, which may or may not be one of, if not the coolest things I have ever gotten. Like, it articulates, it lights up. Now, this is not forced perspective. Like, it literally is bigger than my face. But this may be one of, if not the coolest things I have ever gotten in the mail. I can't eat it, but I still love it. It's huge. Like, it is ginormous. Just to give you a sense of actual force perspective, it's huge. It's heavy. It looks awesome on the shelf. So you know who you are. If you want to identify yourself, if you are in the box, please do. But I wanted to publicly say thank you for this because this is just too cool. So this now graces my shelf up there. God, my little arms look so skinny inside this Infinity Gauntlet. But does he kill Vision? Listen, I'm not going to say what I think happens or where that final stone is going to come from. But you know who you are. Thank you for this. This is awesome. I love it, and I love you, and I love my Iron Spider. So I had to share because I am a 7-year-old kid trapped in a soon to be 50-year-old body, and I just thought that was awesome. So John says now I can grab a huge burger with one hand. It's not practically I can't do very much with it, but it looks awesome. So Kevin Shea says Hasbro, that's my brand job. I dig this, man. I dig my Infinity Gauntlet as much as I dig my my Iron Spider. So thank you to you guys. But Melly Jones says Skinny Lou. Excuse me. Christopher Sank says, at least say Boathouse. Oh gosh, I ate a Boathouse. So my family came down this past weekend from New Jersey, and they said make reservations. I said, where do you guys want to go? And I gave them like 6 choices, none of which included Boathouse, and every single one of them texted me back that they wanted to go to Boathouse. And oh, how I love it though. So always a good. And it's free to park at the Boathouse, by the way. So for now, but yeah. So thank you very much for my. When are we going to talk about those other things so we can announce those? Have your people call my. I don't have any people, but have your people call. Just text me. We'll talk in the next few. I'm Becky. I'm incredibly overwhelmed. But I will always. There's always time. There's always time for Mencken. Is there always time for? Oh, there's always room for Jello, and there's always time for Mencken. So there you go. We'll make that happen. So yes, there's a lot more that is on the hit parade and on the horizon. So I'm flying to Disneyland tomorrow, so I ship you something. Oh, please, for the love of all things sacred, please, if you can send me a chili con carne. You have no idea how. Why don't you just? I have a better idea, in fact, Becky. Why don't you fly me to Disneyland and we could meet right there? We'll do some shows. We'll record together. You buy, I'll fly. How's that? I will make. I will always make time for Becky. So, it's still free to park at Lou, the Uber to the parks, so plan accordingly. Very true, John. The Gauntlet's almost big enough to need its own. It would definitely need its own seat in the car because it's that big. So, but yeah. So obviously, parking is going to be the joke for. Parking's going to be the joke for a while. Anyway, speaking of being overwhelmed, I am overwhelmed, and I have lots of stuff to do before I hit the hay tonight. Don't forget, guys, for Muppet Guys Talking is going to be live this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you can tune in. Also, by the way, before I forget, I will now, who am I kidding? I will definitely be live tomorrow night at some point between like 5 and 8 p.m. from Disney Springs. There are 2 events that I'm going to that I'll be running in between them both. Of course, they both involve food and food, so stay tuned and don't watch hungry. But it will be in Disney Springs tomorrow night, not at the Boathouse. The Boathouse is going to get very jealous, but it's okay. Again, if you guys could share the interview with Dave Goles this week, it is always very much appreciated. Again, to find out more about Momentum, this is not public yet. I am not going to announce this till tomorrow. So if you want to find out more, visit LouMongello.com/retreat. You can also visit LouMongello.com/momentum to find out about the Momentum event. And you can certainly share it with your friends that you think might be interested as well. If you want to go and check out the WDW Radio logo shop, there are a ton of shirts. You can see not just WDW Radio designs, some of my designs, but a ton of other Marvel and Star Wars and Disney designs in the shop, and there's always sales going on there as well. What else did I forget? Thanks as always to the Nation family. I love and appreciate you and all of your support. And to find out how you can not only help support the show, but get exclusive rewards every month, we do live video group calls. There's monthly care packages. There's scavenger hunts, all kinds of other surprises as well. Thanks as always to Becky Mencken and the entire team at Mousefan Travel for their love and their support and their, grief every so often. But we still love you as well. And I think that's it. I think that's it for tonight. I dare you to show up tomorrow night wearing the gauntlet. I don't think that would fly. Kelly Beck, I get strange looks as it is if I wear a gauntlet to. First of all, I wouldn't be able to pick up my food tomorrow. So I wouldn't be able to pick up my food if I did it. But wait, let me unlock this. But anyway, with that, I want to thank you. Yes, you. I want to thank you for tuning in. Father Christopher says, as a nation member, the video calls and monthly packages are great. Thank you so much, Padre. I was going to call you brother, but you're a father. But I meant brother in like the, sense. Thank you very much for the love and the support that you continue to give me. I hope that we can get together while you are here. I hope that you guys have a phenomenal night. I hope to see you tomorrow. And when you do tune in, you tune in tomorrow. Make sure you share that out with your friends as well. Thank you guys again for joining me this evening. Thank you for being part of our Box People family and community. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for spending your night with me. See ya.